I think that the shipping industry's threat under cyber is its own reluctance to move quickly enough within the cyber arena.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast lovers. That was Cynthia A. Hudson from HudsonAnalytix, who you will listen to interview today. The interview is all about risk management and beyond. Welcome to the 102nd episode of the Shipping Podcast. If you are new to this podcast, you are especially welcome. To the tribe, I can only say, welcome back. Last summer, I went to the podcast movement, the world's largest conference for podcasters, which this year was held in Philadelphia in the United States. I had a great time meeting podcasters from all over the world for 3 days there. You can see photos on the Instagram account for the Shipping Podcast from the road trip that me and my podcast pal Karin did. Whilst in Philadelphia, I managed to catch Cynthia, who works there and whom I've been recommended to seek out and make an interview with. Cybersecurity. That is a top-of-mind topic for everyone these days. But maybe, as we discuss, it has not become such an issue in the maritime industry until lately. More and more items get connected. Internet of Things. And there are now more other risks to look into than we had before. Loyal listeners know that I've been touching upon this subject before. For instance, when I met Brent Brun of KH Industries in episode 43, and with Andrew Faiola in episode 67 when he was with Intelsat. But now I thought it was time for a more in-depth interview on the topic of cybersecurity. This interview was recorded on July the 23rd, 2018, and I hope you will enjoy it. So welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Of course, and thank you for having me. My name is Cynthia Hudson, and my company is called HudsonAnalytix. HudsonAnalytix has a division called Hudson Cyber, and I think we're here to talk about cyber today.
Yes, we are. So what is your background?
Well, my background is really originally emergency response. I ran a diving company for a number of years, and after the diving company, we began to collect interesting backgrounds of people with expertise in various areas, and that led me to oil pollution response, and from there to emergency response, and from there to risk management.
Oh, I see. So what is your education?
My education is originally an English literature focus. After English literature, I went to Drexel University and took construction and contractor management and became an apprentice in the union program for wharf and dock building, welding, and commercial diving on the side.
Oh, I see. So that is how you came in contact with shipping then, or?
Yes, I came in contact with shipping because we began to do project management for emergency responses, and we began to perform that sort of work and provide that service to the insurance market out of London and Scandinavia primarily for incidents that occurred in the United States.
I see. It's interesting. Really?
It is.
Yeah. At least to me it's interesting with my background. So what does HudsonAnalytix and the cyber department do? What do you do?
Well, because we are focused in general on risk management, we decided about 4 years ago or so that cyber was going to be the next risk that the ship owners and maritime industry and infrastructure would have to face. So we took it on to begin with to determine whether or not we were able to understand the risk of cyber and then begin to provide assistance to ship owners and ship managers and operators to say, how do we face this new risk? How can we mitigate it? How can we understand enough to be able to insure for it in the areas where that makes sense? And then how do we deal with a real breach?
So what do you see as the biggest threats to the shipping industry and the cyber?
I think that that's a very interesting question, and maybe I turn it a bit on its head. I think that the shipping industry's threat under cyber is its own reluctance to move quickly enough within the cyber arena. There is a lack of understanding about cyber and what cyber threat and cyber risk really means, and where that cyber threat may come from in order to penetrate a vessel owner's organization. Because of the lack of understanding, there is a reluctance to face what cybersecurity and cyber risk management really means. It's a bit easier for a vessel owner to tackle something like ballast water management or scrubbers, even with the issues surrounding them. They are at least tangible areas where people who are used to physical understanding of vessels and their movements and that sort of environment can face it a bit more easily than something nebulous like the cyber world.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also, it's a traditional thing. Everyone has always known what the ship is about, the vessel, and how it moves and so on.
Precisely. We like to have a ship, and we like to have the best ship. We like to take care of the ship the best way, put the best crew and officers on it, make sure that we have very good customers, and put cargo and move from point to point and back again, keeping that ship moving. And we understand that because it's physical, it's direct, and it's easy to comprehend. Then we become more sophisticated in how we do those things. But of course, that is a very much physical world. And now we are talking beyond physical into something like cyber and cyberspace. When 30 years ago, the people in senior management barely understood what a computer was.
Yeah, and I think we're not talking the future, we're talking now.
That's correct.
It's a lot of machine-to-machine communication going on. And
that's right. The Internet of Things has taken over. And so when we think about the fact that now we can purchase refrigerators and we can purchase ovens and we can purchase nearly any device we can think of, and those devices can speak to one another. One can control the air conditioning and heating system in his home or his alarm system remotely. So all of our systems are beginning to speak to each other, and we are sitting on the outside not understanding how they do it, but certainly feeling the positive effects, and now we also have the risk from a potential negative effect to deal with.
Yeah, so where do you see the largest risk then? Is it communication through satellite, or is it,
Well, again, I'm going to answer that perhaps in a different way. I think the easiest thing in shipping is to try to say, all right, we are going to have a penetration of the vessel's operating systems. And that may cause a vessel to veer off course, or it may destroy the AIS system's ability to communicate, or it may have the vessel AIS system reporting incorrect data. And of course, those are risks that do occur. But I would like to suggest that the real threat to the vessel owner and his stakeholders and customers is coming into the business and enterprise area. This means that we use data in the office every day, and we use that data to understand what's happening aboard our ships. We use that data to, frankly, be as good or better than our competitors. We use that data in order to communicate with our financial interests and our customers. If that data is corrupted or stolen or compromised in a small way over a long period of time, or perhaps our financial data is penetrated and compromised, or take a step further, the personal data of our employees, the personal data of our that we exchange with some of our customers is compromised, we have gone into a different level of risk management beyond what is happening to the actual equipment and operational systems on board the vessel itself.
And what about the crew? I mean, the crew is also bringing sort of data on board with their mobiles.
Well, yes, and the crew brings data, and the crew therefore can be viewed as a threat. I met with a shipping company who said, we have solved the problem. We've removed the crew from being able to use internet, And we have told them that this is just not going to be the future for our company. We believe that while that may pose an immediate solution, we don't believe that is a solution, because to attract quality crew, there must be a strategy for retention and a strategy for best hire. And most of the really up and running vessel owners know this very well. And so this means that while you can manage and control internet usage or prevent the infamous USB stick from being used aboard a vessel or in a computer on the vessel, this is not the strategy. Endpoint monitoring is a part of a solution. Regulating use of USB sticks, part of a solution. Operating equipment upgrades and updates on board vessels, part of a solution. But we believe that a vessel owner's entire enterprise needs to be looked at and assessed for all possible policies, procedures, protocols, and activities. Once a global assessment within the vessel owner's organization is done, he knows in all areas where threats may come from, what threats he may pose to others, what happens when an issue comes into an organization and then migrates to other areas within his organization. He's better prepared to deal with that, and he is better prepared to harden himself as a target for those sorts of threats.
Yeah, I can understand that the maritime industry has specific areas and other areas to be sort of very cautious about. But also, the ones that we hear about in the news, that someone is hijacking a computer to get their passwords, or you have to pay to get your password or your computer back, or things like that. I mean, that must also be happening in our industry, since it's happening everywhere.
Oh, very much so. In the last several times that I've been able to speak to groups of ship owners, now every one of them will admit that their company has at one point or another suffered a virus, gotten a whale mail, or gotten some other type of sort of penetration or attempt to get data or money, or to co-opt the company's equipment for someone's nefarious purposes. If money is behind the most frequent of reasons for hacking or for penetration of a network, then all of the ways that are possible to get at a stream of money are the types of things that hackers think about all day long. And by the way, they get very highly paid for that.
So it's the new sort of pirate.
Yes, exactly.
And I remember when those pirate attacks sort of took off in Somalia and things like that. And then everyone started to, oh my God, maybe we need to do something about this. And I can see what you are saying, that now people are starting to understand that maybe they should have the same.
That's correct. And when we think about piracy, and one of our other businesses is really maritime security, that's Hudson Trident. And Hudson Trident, what we found was piracy is easier to understand because the concept is as old as ships are old. As long as we've had shipping, we've had pirates. So yes, they've changed their means, they've changed their ways, they've changed their types of desires. What are they doing? Are they taking hostages? Are they stealing cargo? Are they stealing the whole vessel for some reason? What is it that they want? Those things may have changed, but the concept of piracy, it's again easy to understand. What happens with cyber is, yes, we have the new pirates, but people don't understand what the means are. They don't understand exactly what the goals are. And so what we find are that people tend to focus on bits of kit or gear that will prevent a certain sort of attack. Or they begin to put in protocols, and some of these protocols are needed and necessary. But what we're still encouraging is, instead of going out and using your budget to buy that bit of kit today, try to look at the situation holistically and say, what do we really need? Maybe we really need training. We don't need a bit of kit right away. Maybe we've done very good training and we have very good policies and procedures. So 2 or 3 bits of kit will help us very, very much to harden. But if you have not done that holistic evaluation, you may not be able to come up with those kinds of answers or weight them from a business perspective to see what's most important to you.
So the next step will be the unmanned ships then, or not unmanned, but remote controlled vessels?
Autonomous shipping.
Yes.
This is, of course, the question of the future. But it's interesting for us because we are looking at shipping today and saying that cyber poses a threat today. So while the shipping industry is coming to grips with autonomous ships, which we think will come in some way, sometime, and for certain fashions, of course, it will. But let's look at what we have today and make sure that we as companies don't unexpectedly lose our value, our brand, our reputation, our business data, intellectual property by not putting the right policies and procedures in place or buying the right things we need eventually in order to protect ourselves. Then we're still in business when autonomous shipping comes in and we can say, all right, what do we do? Do we make a purpose-built autonomous ship that is very cyber hardened? What does that mean, hardening against a cyber attack? That's going to change in 2 years, in 5 years, in 20 years, maybe in the next 10 minutes. So this is an ongoing issue. It's not something we solve today and put on the shelf. It will move from now till years to come.
So,
I think
so how are you greeted? I mean, what does the ship owner think when you meet them? Do they think, wow, I never thought about it? Or are they prepared?
I think that 2 years ago, the ship owner said in every meeting we had or every conference we attended, yeah, we know it's an issue, but we have so many other issues. The market is not good. We have other regulations we have to face. There's no cyber regulation. We're not ready. Or we don't understand that at all. We're just waiting. In a year, they started to say, we understand cyber's a problem, but we have found a solution. We have a very good IT guy, the famous IT guy.
Yeah, I would like to meet that famous IT guy.
Well, we've met a few brilliant ones, but very few of them are looking at the company from the same perspective as the management, as the C-suite solely, the managing director, the top people in a company who are concerned deeply about the company's present and future value. So the CTO or the IT guy definitely has a remit, and that remit is clear, and we need him. But the issue really is not the IT guy, it's how does the company deal with a real threat? And it's a threat that is asymmetrical. It's coming from various types of areas, various types of communication procedures. And some of those communications, believe me, are not on the telephone. Those are data, sending of data. So what we need to do is convince the C-suite, the managing directors, please, this is your problem. Don't think you can pass it to your best IT guy. It's a company problem. It's guarding your balance sheet. It's guarding your company assets and your value.
So they do realize that now, or are you still... Oh, it's hard to get...
I think that perhaps they have a suspicion that this is the case, but it's still what I would be calling, it's regarded as the too difficult bracket. I can deal, for example, with a ballast water problem. I'm upset about it. It's not fair, but I can deal with it. Over here, my IT guy has to tell me what it means and why I should be worried. And he says he has control of it. So perhaps I leave that and we talk about it again. And by the way, there's still not a regulation. So we say, well, you do know that IMO has said that it will become necessary to comply through the ISM code. How are you going to do it by 2020? But what does that mean? So there's no regulation. People are trying to grab at something to be able to show their board or their investors or their financial institutions, we are in compliance, but it's not a regulation, so how do you comply? So people are grabbing at the classification society's delivery of a notation or certificate, but that's vessel specific. Or they are grabbing at the idea that they can go through the ISO 27000. And IMO is saying, okay, because you still have to comply, the ISM code requires, so tell us by 2020. So I think that people are a bit hanging back and saying, well, if I have either a class certificate per ship, that's the best I could do right now. Or if I go for 27,000, the entire solution, maybe that's the best I can do, so who can criticize me? But the managing director should not be saying that. He should be saying, what do I need to do to protect my balance sheet? How am I convinced as the managing director? Because my CTO says so, or my IT guy says so? He wouldn't take the word of someone else necessarily on other major issues that pose a threat to his balance sheet. So what we are saying is you don't have to. You can get involved. It is not as frightening as you think. Yes, you need resources. And you need a way to establish how are you going to commit the company's resources and why? How are you defending to the board of directors that you decided to spend X $1,000 or euro or pound on that rather than on this? Why? What's the difference? Why is this important? Why is that important? Why did you do it? And God forbid, if you have a very, very serious breach that compromises in some way or threatens the company's problem, threatens the company with a value problem or a branding or reputation problem, will you, as the managing director, actually be able to defend your actions? So this is the question we want to ask. And we're saying it's really not that difficult. It's permanent. You have to keep doing it. But it's not that difficult to make the right start for the right reasons and do the right things accordingly.
So how do you see the future for shipping in general?
Oh, in general, I feel that the shipping industry is going to go through more consolidation, but there are many more people smarter than I am that could answer that question. We just see it from our vantage point. We think that shipping is so resilient, it's very smart. The problem is that it may be painful to go to that next level. Certain vessel owners who are not adopting new standards quickly enough will fall by the wayside. Others will learn how to consolidate. Others will say it's too difficult. We're going to put our vessels to management and back out of the day-to-day management ourselves. But shipping will continue for years and years to come. And so to look forward and lean forward is what we think will be the salvation of the best.
Yeah, but there's so many things happening at the same time now. I mean, it's a new generation coming in a way. We have a shift of the generation. So many people are retiring. And there were not that many in between, so we get a younger generation in at the top. We got the digitalization. We got the digitization, which is another thing. And we got the cyber. We got the autonomous ships. We got the technical developments. There's so many things happening at the same time.
That's right.
I think it's exciting.
It is, and I think that the younger generation needs to be brought in and trained and embraced so that they are a part of what our conversation is today. The world is not going to go backward to the way it was 20 and 40 and 30 years ago. It is going to move forward, and we're either going to move with it, and that's going to require young people, or we will have our head in the sand like an ostrich and hope it will all blow over. We don't think that's the way to go into the future. And we think that understanding risk management and understanding risk management as a whole, meaning that there is a converged risk conversation. All risks are the problem of the C-suite, of the managing director, and all risks need to be understood and managed in that holistic way so that the managing director looking at that says, all right, I know that I could have an environmental problem. I'll plan for it. I'll try to prevent it. I'll plan for it. I'll rehearse or train for it. And then when it occurs, I'll be as ready as I can be with the right people to inform it. But by the way, I could have two problems at the same time. Perhaps I have a security problem and a collision or grounding. Perhaps I have a security, a cyber, and an environmental problem. By the way, all those present threats to my financial picture. How am I dealing with my reputation, my brand? How do I deal with my customers? What do I do if I have had a problem in any of those areas? And hopefully no one soon has to face that kind of a global problem, but it doesn't take too much to imagine and to prepare for it now. And the last piece of that, which Lena, you are very familiar with, is how do you transfer this risk appropriately? So when you are coming to understand your risk thoroughly, you then understand what you can absorb as a company and what you must try to transfer in a responsible way, insofar as you can afford it. So the risk transfer conversation is coming down the road.
So do you see the insurance people ready to discuss this as well? I mean, on the other side, on the supplying of insurance to cyber.
Some very interesting conversations are now being had. The last couple of years, I think the maritime insurance regimes have said, not sure, don't know, let's wait, let's think, let's talk. And that's probably appropriate. The non-maritime insurance realm has been thinking about and, in fact, providing policies for years. So there's a lot to be learned from the non-maritime sector, but we, the maritime business, have a lot of unique areas within our insurance coverages and our regimes. And you know this very, very well. So our hope is that we can continue with these dialogues and discussions until a very robust offering or series of offerings are in fact on the market, and that the insurers offering those sorts of products are able to understand the difference between a vessel owner who has adopted best practices, not just got a certificate or bought a piece of kit, but adopted best practices and is serious about the ongoing protection and management of his risk.
Yeah, I can see the challenges in that.
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting.
Yes, I can see that as well. So we are often looked upon as the hidden industry, the Cinderella industry.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do to become more visible?
Well, I think what you're doing right now is extremely interesting, because if people have an interest in the maritime sector, where do they go for information unless they are already on the inside and at a level where they are able to command the information by saying, we would like to buy, so please come and talk to us. Or we would like to sell, so we have to know exactly what we are talking about. But for people who are, for example, considering the maritime industry for a future career, how do they learn about this at, say, the high school or university level if they don't choose a maritime academy? And why would they if they don't know that the maritime industry have careers to offer? The other thing I think is that the appreciation of the maritime industry beyond being a captain or being an officer or being a sailor on a ship has to be communicated. The maritime industry is quite wide. So you have everything from agents and freight forwarders, people who do manufacture very important electronics and equipment. And you have, I don't have to tell you or the listeners to you, but the industry is so international, so exciting, so wide, so really permanent from a perspective of the need to transport materials, both for reasons of national defense in every part of the world, all the way to the simplest of commodities, low value to high value, energy related to what do we buy? Sneakers, sneakers and Christmas presents or holiday gifts, those kinds of things. Everything is coming by ship. And who knows that?
Not a lot of people do outside our own industry, because we love talking about our passion. And we're so passionate about our industry, but we forget to tell people outside. And I also think that we also need to tell the politicians about it, because they are usually in charge of regulating us. Yes. And if they don't know about what our challenges are or problems or what we are good at, then they can't do their best to regulate us.
That's exactly right. And I know we have that problem here in the United States, but I'm sure that this is not the only place. We meet people on the port side and on the vessel owner side all over the world, and many of them have less than perfect attention from the government, the regulators, and the politicians. And sometimes there's funding requirements or understanding of the challenges that could really be aided and abetted by really interested governments. So I know IMO's working hard at this, and certain nations are leaning forward in a way that would make them the exceptions to the rule. But primarily, we need to have a look at this. This is a critical part of our economic infrastructure worldwide.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I started. So who do you think I should meet the next? Who would you be interested in listening to in a shipping podcast?
Oh, that's a very, very interesting question. I think that for me, they're the innovators. And so one of the innovators that we've been talking to recently and that we have a lot of time for in concept is Martin Lanting and Rocco Bozelli, both of whom are working within an enterprise Martin Lanting has started called 24 Vision. He's quite an interesting figure in and of himself, and he is trying to think about how service delivery should be made, whether it's insurance or broking or bunkering or what is the new model. I believe he's got a lot to talk about. I would love to hear him on a podcast.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing your wisdom with us. I hope that a lot of people in the C-suite listened to this and that they start to think of the cybersecurity in a more holistic way. I mean, we have seen a few large attacks and numerous attacks that we haven't seen, but that has happened. We have also seen the price tags on the one that have been made public. This needs more attention from the top level than to leave it with the IT guy, as you said. After my 100th episode, I received so many greetings. I'm so happy, and thank you to everyone that sent it to me. I thought I'd shed some of them with you. So, Alison Tunick, professor at the Maine Maritime Academy, wrote to me, "Hello, Lena. Thank you for your shipping podcast. I enjoyed your 100th episode. It was fascinating to hear more of your story, which you had thus far only given a few glimpses into." Yes, I know. Selfishly, my favorite part of the episode was hearing that you plan to continue to produce them. Thank you for your services to the shipping industry. How often do you get emails like this? I don't know. So, someone else write to me. It's Gillian Peden. He's the business development manager at River Trace Limited. "Hello, Lena. I just wanted to drop you a note to thank you for your podcast. I came across this earlier in the week, and I have been binging to catch up. It's wonderful to see shipping industry get a wider platform. Good luck in your endeavors, and hopefully our paths cross at some events." Thank you, Gillian. Yes, I hope so too. Sophia Schille. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but Sophia from the Netherlands. She wrote to me, "Hello, Ms. Gothberg. After being an avid listener of your podcast for the last years, growing up far from the shore, it has been an invaluable source of insight. I would like to start a podcast of a similar format to yours on the topic of maritime robotics." This made me so happy. I have inspired Sophia to start a podcast of her own and focusing on maritime robotics. I wish you all the best, Sophia, and you know that if I can help you in any way, just send me an email to hello@shippingpodcast.com. Speaking about podcasts about or in or from the maritime industry, I'm happy that there are some more organizations entering the podcast universe here. I think that is great, and I welcome them all. Maybe we can collaborate in the future, time will tell. But most of all, I see this as a sign that more people than me are wanting to consume news and information about the maritime industry in other ways than through a subscribed newspaper. There is a demand for the spoken word about the maritime industry. Hooray! This is what I have been saying for 3.5 years now, and my downloads speaks volume about the same thing. Let's bring the maritime industry into the 21st century. Let's do this together. And if you want more on cybersecurity, I know a few more female experts in this field that we could talk to. Moving forward, I would like to hear more about what you, the listeners, want to listen to. Until now, I've been the captain, and I've gone after the people that I want to talk to and listen to. Right now, I get a lot of emails from people who want to be featured on the show. But I'm more interested in what you want to listen to. Please drop me a line. hello@shippingpodcast.com. Next time, you will be meeting an interesting woman in the marine insurance business. That is also an exciting conversation. Until then, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.